I really want to have a great friendship, a mutual relationship with these guys.
The number one thing I have to work on with riders is breathing. So you stay loose and then your horse isn't feeding off of nervous energy.
Thoroughbreds are very mental compared to the other horses, and so they think a lot more, and so if you can give them time to really absorb it mentally, they do a lot better.
Last lesson is stop while you're ahead, as tempting as it may be to keep playing. You good boy?
Hi, my name is Jen Royce. I'm the Executive Director of the Retired Racehorse Project. The RRP exists to increase demand for off-track thoroughbreds, and the biggest way we do that, and probably the most well-known, is the Thoroughbred Makeover. But there are other ways we do that too, like the magazine we publish 4 times a year, all of our educational content online, and our masterclass series, which is held at locations throughout the country. Every year at the Makeover, we do the Makeover Masterclass, which features thoroughbred makeover trainers working with horses that have recently retired from racing. And this year, since we had to postpone the Makeover, we're bringing you a virtual masterclass. We're watching trainers in Maryland, Kentucky, and Colorado all work with thoroughbreds who have recently retired from the racetrack, and they're going to show us their approach based on their background and discipline to starting the retraining process.
The Retired Racehorse Project's 2020 Virtual Makeover Masterclass is brought to you by the Thoroughbred Education and Research Foundation, Retired Racehorses of Arapahoe Park, and the United States Polo Association. Hi, I'm Jonathan Horowitz, the announcer for the Thoroughbred Makeover, and while I wish that I could be with you in person this year in Kentucky, I'm happy to welcome you to the farm that Ashley and I have in Colorado, where we'll be seeing the 5-year-old gray off-the-track thoroughbred gelding Mr. Frosty in his first work after retiring from racing. And this is the team that has brought him to this point, starting with his race trainer, owner, and breeder, Kim Oliver. Tell us a little bit about how Mr. Frosty got to this point.
Well, Mr. Frosty comes from a long line of my family's breeding program. We started with the grandmother, have the mother, and Frosty was born at our ranch in Silt 5 years ago. We trained to race in Colorado. He ran as a 2-year-old.
Mr. Frosty breaks on top, heads to the early lead.
Had a few little injuries, so he had a couple years off at the ranch. We brought him back this last spring, and he was training great, doing great things, and getting oohs and ahs at the track for his floaty movements and just his overall gorgeousness. And so we thought, well, we'll run him a couple times and see how he does in the Colorado breed program, and then retire him at the end of the race meet and let him go on for his new second career, whatever that might be.
It's amazing that the Racing Connections want to ensure that their horses go to good homes. So Kim brought Mr. Frosty to Ashley and me. Ashley, you've had experience with a lot of Colorado breds, some even by the same sire.
Yes, I've probably worked with about a dozen from the same sire, Grand Minstrel. They are all very, very similar when you're starting them off the track. Generally, they are very, very smart, very, very athletic, and we'll say cheeky. They have opinions, they have an ego which comes out with more of their training, but they really think they have it all together when they're youngsters.
Also working with Mr. Frosty will be Amy Bowers, who won freestyle at the 2019 Thoroughbred Makeover. Amy, what's your philosophy working with the horse first time off the track?
The biggest thing is I just kind of want to feel them out and see what they know. Instead of kind of going in with an agenda of what I want to do, I just really try to figure out where our starting base is, because with a horse coming off the track, it's not all equal. They don't all have the exact same experiences. They don't all have the same temperament. So the first thing I just try to do is just kind of feel them out, see what they know, and then I kind of can go from there to then build upon something.
Well, we have a great team in place. Now let's meet the star of the show, Mr. Frosty. So here he is, Amy, Mr. Frosty.
Well, he's a big, handsome guy. I'm a little bit partial to. My very first pony was named Frosty, so, but it was a little gray pony mare. Really handsome guy. I love the shoulder on him. great, beautiful expression in his eye. He's a good-looking guy. Nice open walk, nice and overreaching with that hind end. Horses sometimes, especially coming right off the track, they can be a little bit tighter, but he's had a few weeks of letdown, but nice big open walk, which you don't always see with the thoroughbred, so I really like to see that. Super easy moving guy. Even the fact that he could kind of bounce into a canter right there at such a low speed, really athletic. Ready to go. I can't wait to see what this guy looks like all muscled up. He already is such a picture of beauty there. Hi, bud. Hi, handsome. Mr. Personality, huh? So I'm gonna just start out with some groundwork today. I love to start every single horse with groundwork, especially my off-the-track thoroughbreds. It's a great way to start building a language and a partnership. I really want to have a great friendship, a mutual relationship with these guys. Bring them over the middle here. Kind of walk with him for a second, kind of just feel him out, see how he responds to things and suggestions. If I stop, what does he do? Very nice. I don't make any assumptions of what they do or don't know. I want to just come in here with a blank slate and just let him tell me what he's learned in his life so far. I have a stick and string here, and before I start using it with him, I want to really make sure that he's not afraid of it. I never want my horses responding out of fear. I want them to respond out of understanding and respect. So when I introduce something to them, a lot of times I'll back away from them as I'm showing it to them. Instead of pushing it into their space, I'm gonna have them follow it and have it come out of their space. And even there, you could just seem to be a little reactive to the stick moving. Now, as I'm walking, I'm just gonna move it out here in front of them. Because again, this tool is useless to me if he is worried or fearful about it. And this tool is just an extension of my hand. You can see like, oh, even that, I really like that. That letting out of that air. Really getting to realize that this is just a part of me and there's no need to worry. Because you can tell he's obviously quite comfortable with humans, but we want to make sure he's really comfortable with our tools as well before we proceed. And I really like that has his hip cocked there. He's paying attention, but being nice and relaxed about it. Super. I'll even just take him on another little walk again, play with my stick and string out in front of him. Lots of retreating, lots of taking it out, and little breaks is really important for these guys. No need to rush. I always say the horse has the timeline. I've got the goals, they've got the timeline. So now I want to see if I can swing this stick and string up on his back. And again, I'm going to aim for it to be right on his withers again, because it's just a real natural place for a horse, and not too sensitive or reactive there. Good. So it's going to go up and down with rhythm. And what I'm looking for is for him to just kind of relax into it and not have as much of a response. And you can see each time he's kind of moving his head a little bit less and less. Good. Nice. That's what I want to see. Super. So now that he's doing pretty good with getting nice and friendly with the pressure, with the stick and the string, I'm just going to see if I can ask him to move off of some pressure. So what I think about is there's 3 different types of pressure. There's friendly pressure, right? Like as I'm petting him right now, this is technically pressure, right? But it should be neutral, it should be friendly. And then there's steady pressure and rhythmic pressure. And I want to make sure that he's comfortable and understands all 3 of them. So here I'm just going to ask him on his chest. And again, I like to do this with the stick first. Sometimes horses will strike out at this pressure, and so it gives me some distance to make sure that I'm not in a bad spot. As if I did it with my hand, I might be in a little bit bad spot. And it's not that I expect him to. So I'm just gonna put this pressure right here on his chest. And it's gonna come on real slowly. And it's just gonna build and build until he can find how to release that pressure. There. And this really eventually builds into some really cool stuff. Absolutely super. Because I need isolation of being able to talk to the hip, talk to the shoulder, talk to his ribs, talk to his nose in different parts.
So what's something specific that you could build off of just that hip isolation?
Like this can eventually, because this eventually can become a leg cue, this building, because I always think exaggerate to teach and then refine as I go along, right? So the exaggeration right now is the pressure's all the way back here. Eventually, my leg can be here and ask the hip to move, and that can be a haunches in, anything like that, or a leg yield off of that steady pressure. But I want to have that real specific isolation first and on the ground, and then it really easily builds to riding. What a good boy. Good, and now I'm going to see if I can use some rhythmic pressure to back him up with my rope. I really like using this technique because you can really affect your horse from far away, and you don't have to be right next to them, right? So again, I just look for that little movement. So it's real soft. Thought about it. And again.
Well, he seems like the type of horse that if you get tough with him, he's just immediately going to get overwhelmed.
Yeah. The biggest thing is giving horses time to think about something, right? A lot of times we get too quickly to get big. I want to give them lots and lots of time to see and feel something coming. And don't rush them. Especially in the learning phase. Another good quote I learned recently, and this I don't know who said it, but they said the problem with communication is when people think or assume it's happened. And I feel like that's so often with horses. We've assumed we've communicated with them, and then we get frustrated with them because they're not responding, but in reality, we really truly haven't communicated in the first place. There we go. I let the rope slip. When I'm first working with a new horse like this, I'll kind of actually turn with them. Eventually, I don't want to do that, but I do it in the very beginning to make sure that they can't get away from me. Because a lot of times these horses have never been out on a circle and they don't know where the end of the line is, and they start to run. They just like, oh, here we go. And that's why it's a great idea to be in a smaller pen to help you have a little bit more of a support. Good. And I don't mind every time he comes in. That's just a great opportunity for me to go through my phases again. Super. So now that he's going, I'm going to ask him to stop, and I'm going to do it by pushing the hindquarters. So I'm going to bend down, look at those hindquarters, and walk towards them. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted him to do. The hindquarters swung, the front end came in, and it made him turn and face me perfectly. Really nice. I'm gonna go back the other way. So I'm gonna lead it. I'm gonna lift it. I'm gonna swing it. And even when I start swinging, you'll see like the swing doesn't necessarily even go at him first. Gives him lots of time.
Well, that goes right back to that intention that we had talked about before, where you're just expressing that intention.
Absolutely.
I just reactionarily just clicked to him.
Absolutely. Good, and again, I'm gonna stop him. I'm gonna bend down, I'm gonna look at that hindquarters. And did you see how I did not pull on the rope? It's not about me pulling the nose in, it's about me pushing the hind end away, which naturally causes front end to come to me. What a good boy, he's so smart. Very nice. It's just all about trying to develop that language and understanding that I can build upon and have a reference point for when I'm riding and bring that into riding. Be able to just talk to him
He just finished an awesome session with Amy, working on groundwork, so we're gonna get him tacked up and see how he does with his first ride. Good boy. What a good man. I like to lunge them, not really to teach them about lunging or force them in a frame or force anything like that, but I want to see what he's going to do when he moves forward. And I would love for him to lazily walk around and then sleepily trot around and then be done, 2 minutes later. I will generally get on from the ground just because I'm expecting them not to stand. This might be my threshold. I pride myself on being able to hop on most any horse from the ground. This one's going to be a stretch. And before I get on, I want to have some idea if he knows at all what reins actually mean. Some do, some don't. So again, this is how I would start with teaching them to give, but this is not really a lesson, it's more of just an evaluation. Oh, he doesn't really seem to care. I know. Calm down there, buds. And walk a lap, reset. That session's done. Good boy. One thing that was really amazing with him, OTTBs are chronic walk offers.
Absolutely.
So the fact that I really like to sit until they go to sleep.
Yeah.
And generally that takes a lot of repetitions before you get to that point. Excuse me, dude. Thank you.
Hurry up and wait.
I know, now he's bored, so now we'll go. Gonna kind of give him a little click. And I found, again, through trial and error, I never just walk them straight off. I'm always gonna turn them. And if you have a horse that's sticky and plants their feet, you're not gonna convince them to walk straight off. So the turning start is really good, good. Boy, and I know he's better this way, so we're gonna walk this way. And again, as much as possible, I'm gonna hold it and not touch, and then I kind of run my hands down. Good. Good boy. And just use these light leading hands, and then that goes away. Good boy. He's like, when are we gonna trot? Is it coming up? Yeah. Good. Right there, I just closed my legs. He just slowed down just a little bit, and I just closed them just very briefly, and he moved right off, which tells me that someone with a longer leg has probably been on him. And one thing, so right there, good boy, he's trying to dive and lock down. And I'm not gonna punish him for that, but I'm not gonna give to it either. So I do setting a wall. And he can go all the way up to that wall and do what he needs to, but I'm not gonna let him get through it. And it's a very, very generous wall right now. He's not gonna hit it unless, he's out to here. But it's the same, good. As a horse gets more and more fit and you're moving up the levels, that wall comes back to where they're moving up and meeting that wall, and that's what they're searching for, is that contact. But it discourages that, right, I call it the allergic to work, where a horse just coughs, right? So they can just pull forward. Horse can cough all they want, but I will not allow them to yank me out of my seat with it. Good boy. So, knowing all of that stuff, let's see how a little trot goes. There you go, good boy. There's literally nothing of him working yet, so I can only imagine. There. I will hop off and we'll go into the arena. There we go, good boy. All right, we on? I am gonna start asking him just a little bit to see if I can move the shoulder and how he is willing to move the shoulder, give to the bit, but not really expecting a frame or a rhythm yet. Just asking him to move and respond. You see, we got another horse in the arena with us, and people driving by and hollering. All of that's good stuff. We don't avoid the distractions. I want him to stop and see everything and, you know, gain confidence by being able to process it. But you can't hide him from those situations. I'm gonna take him over ground poles, Jay. These grand minstrel babies generally don't seem to care about things like that. Some horses that might take issue with that. I've had some OTTBs that hated poles. They made great dressage horses. You see his little raised cavaletti here, and just see how he does. Let him figure it out, let him look, let him think. Good boy, he had to pick his feet up a little bit there. Okay, we'll go the other way. Let him look and think. Good. Good boy. Good. And now he's woken up since I presented a few things to him. It's like, oh, okay, things are gonna happen. Good boy. I made those poles extra long for him because I know he's such a big boy with such a nice trot. Good boy. Good boy, and that's the first time I presented him to that, so if he wanted to stop and take a look, take a breather, no big deal. There we go. Ooh, okay. He likes that. There. All right, he's been a really good boy. We're gonna have a little fun. See how he handles some new things. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. He's got a lot more in him. He's proud of himself. He could very easily do more, but he has more than proven himself. I think exceeded expectations on all levels. And as fun as it would be for me to keep playing with him, this is one of those stop while you're ahead.
He looks great. I mean, I didn't expect anything less, but he's doing great, and I'm excited to see where he goes from here.
We're all very excited, and he's got upper level potential written all over him.
We're here at Liftoff Equestrian, where Cantor, Kentucky operates out of as well. Liftoff is owned by Ashley Watts, who's also the head trainer here. And we're also joined by Jen O'Neill, who owns and operates Lucky Dog Equestrian. And you work with a lot of off-track thoroughbreds, retraining them and selling them. So how did you get into that?
Well, I sold my first pony when I was actually in college, and a few days later I went and found a horse at a small training operation in the LaGrange area at High Point Training Center, and it was just a happy accident that he ended up going on and competing up through the advanced level of eventing. So.
Very cool. And how many horses would you say you train in a given year?
Ooh, probably I would say I get between 15 and 20 horses off the track and retrain and rehome them.
And do they primarily go on to eventing, or do they go on to other careers as well?
They go on to a bunch of different careers. I have mostly probably eventing, but there are horses that have gone into just pleasure homes and also done dressage or some jumpers, stuff like that.
And so, Ashley, we're here in Kentucky, but you're not from Kentucky. You're from Washington and came into the hunter-jumper world on the Pacific Coast and then made your way to Kentucky. So how long have you had Liftoff, and how long have you had that affiliation with Cantor?
I started my business 12 years ago, and Liftoff is actually named after a thoroughbred jumper I had. So when I needed to come up with that LLC name real quick, my dad's like, you got to give her credit because that horse did a whole lot for me. And then I have helped canter, I believe, for around 4 years here in Kentucky.
Fantastic. And how many horses would you say Canter adopts out each year on average? I know it's part adoption and part like sales and listing service, where Canter is not party to the sale. It's more of a marketplace that they
Right.
offer.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to do with the trainer listings, but with the horses that are considered canter Kentucky horses that come through our facility, we probably do around 10 to 15 a year.
Great.
Yeah.
And so today we are looking at one of your Canter Kentucky horses. We are looking at Joker Delish. He's a 4-year-old 16 two-hand chestnut gelding by Can the Man out of Miss Cheektowaga by Crafty Friend. He made his first start a couple days before the end of his 2-year-old year, and then he ran 4 more times as a 3-year-old.
Joker Delish on the outside, baptized the boys, got some early speed.
And then retired, had about a year off, and just recently came to Liftoff to start his retraining for his off-track career.
I really, really like this horse's personality in the barn. He's been really easy to handle, more so than most that come straight from the track, I think, because he had a year off in a field. He just had that nice letdown period of time. He's really easy to deal with and live with and quiet, and more of like a puppy dog personality than anything. And he's just very cute to look at.
Sydney, are you willing to take him for a little walk for us? And Jen, I'd love to hear your impressions since you're seeing him for the first time.
My first impression of this horse is that he obviously has a very quiet temperament. He's a good size and he has a very attractive, cute head with a good expression. He has a good walk. He is stepping into his front footprints with his hind leg without really being asked to walk on very quickly.
I see him as being someone's pleasure horse, Western horse, dressage horse, something where he's, I think he could go in a few different directions because he's such a good-brained animal. From what I understand, he had a sesamoid fracture, so he got the full year off and then came straight here from being in a field. From what I understand, he can get back to work and just be a lower level horse, and as time goes on, it'll tell if he could turn into some sort of a hunter or a jumper or something further along for a sport horse. But otherwise, we're just going to market him as flat work only, whether I set it was trail or Western or dressage or someone's kind of all around pleasure horse.
I think that people think of thoroughbreds as being these high-octane, hot animals that will never be suitable as a pleasure horse or a trail horse or even doing competitive trail or anything like that. And really, like, this horse strikes me as one that would be very suitable for any of those things and could be a very good family horse for someone. You know, they don't all have to be high-performance horses. There's lots of people that need just nice, quiet pleasure mounts, and I don't think that thoroughbreds should be discounted for those kinds of activities.
Well, now that we've got some first impressions, let's see if we can get some more impressions under saddle if you want to tack him up and take him for a spin.
Okay, just let him walk a second and just walk with me. Good boy.
So I would just kind of be walking around and
You can let him go.
doing some circles and letting him check out all the scenery here in this ring.
Yeah, he seems like he's pretty unfazed by everything, because this is definitely a different scenario than he's probably seen before. But everything he's saying is like, I can handle it, it's fine, I'm figuring it all out. How does he feel to you, Ashley?
He feels pretty good. He's definitely a little more animated since we were watching him walk on the ground, but that's kind of to be expected.
I like how he's just kind of he's starting to move forward a little bit more, starting to relax a little bit more.
Well, and when I got on and just started doing my little circles and changing direction, I mean, he steers pretty well. Sometimes that can be difficult, steering and stopping. And I mean, he definitely has a clue about leg pressure and what he should be doing. So someone took their time when they broke him to teach him some basics.
You know, I always think back to this saying I heard that every step of every ride is a conversation between you and the horse. And I always think of these first rides as like, what is the horse trying to tell me? He's trying to help me understand what he knows or what he needs, and I'm trying to help him understand what I'm asking for and hopefully what I know.
We're gonna try to trot here. So I think also we should note that I don't think any of us mentioned it before. This horse is actually barefoot, which is a great plus for him.
Well, and I guess I forgot to say how, like leading up to getting on him, we've been teaching him to lunge, lunged him with tack, stood with the mounting block, just standing next to it, because they don't know what a mounting block is usually. They, like you were saying,
Yeah.
They have the leg up, and usually they get to keep moving while you're getting on them. And so just standing there and getting them comfortable with you above their head can sometimes be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things about getting a horse from facilities like Canter or any of these aftercare facilities that put retraining miles on horses. They put those first lunging sessions on them and the first rides and help them learn the basics between, you know, whether it's a little bit of leg pressure and lateral work or whether it's their gaits and their leads and things like that. But that makes a huge difference in that first, you know, year off the track if they get some basics from someone who's comfortable teaching them.
Yeah, for sure. We do a lot of groundwork with our horses, typically before we get on. It depends on the horse, like how much groundwork we'll put in on a horse before we go ahead and get on. Some of them will need more than others, just ones that might be a little bit more busy-minded or nervous, or that are tighter in their body or back or whatever. I find that doing groundwork on them first really helps. This guy's being pretty good. He's getting better as he goes, kind of figuring out how to stretch down his neck and through his back.
I love that. He just went from the trot to the walk and loose rein, and he's not.
Oh, it's perfect.
Like look how slow he's walking. Like that's
Totally
just so
relaxed
pleasant.
now.
Yeah. Yeah, you can really see his personality coming out a little bit more now that he's figuring out what you're asking. So how does he feel to you, Ash?
Just from when you asked me when I first got on to now, he already feels like way more relaxed and just like, if you look at him, he's not doing the head thing, he's not chomping at the bit as much. He's just figured out what we're doing here.
I think it's so important though, like we're talking about how relaxed he is, but it's coming from you being relaxed as a rider.
Yeah, they definitely feed off the energy and the nerves. But like a few minutes ago too, I felt him just take that deep breath and let it out. And like, you know, that's where it's like, yes, that's what you need to do, because we're not doing anything tough here. We're not going to do anything to you. But yeah, it's really important. I think the number one thing I have to work on with riders is breathing, because they hold their breath and they get tense, and then the horses get tense. So it's really important to remember, keep breathing so you stay loose and then your horse isn't feeding off of nervous energy.
Yeah, one thing I'm so impressed with this horse, speaking of the jumps, like, you know he's probably never seen jumps before. But that's such a testament to everything a thoroughbred has seen. They see so much when they're racehorses that coming into this kind of environment is just another day at the office.
Good job. I find it so interesting when they have a good right lead to start off with. His canter is spongy, like it's, for how big he is, it's soft.
You know, I love how willing he is to go forward without trying to drag her forward, you know. It's funny how some horses come off the track and they get in a situation like this and they either don't want to go forward sometimes or they go forward with more enthusiasm than
required, yeah.
But this guy is just so even and steady. You know, he doesn't have the educated canter yet, but he's got the bones.
Right, yeah. He's just got such a good attitude about everything. He's so happy.
Good.
Yeah, that was nice, Ash.
And ho, ho. That's a good.
So for a horse like this who's starting from a good place, but still starting from square one, what are some good exercises that you would suggest that wouldn't overface them but would help them in those first couple lessons?
As far as riding them, because I would say do lots of groundwork before you ride them. But as far as riding them, I think you just have to be really good about reading what your horse is telling you, like you were talking about as a conversation with the horse. You have to be able to read what they can't tell you what they're thinking. You have to be able to really start to read what they're thinking, if their ears go flat back, if they hold their breath, if they're breathing, so that you don't push it too far. Because if you push it too far, then you can take a few steps backwards. Then, you know, shorter increments each day, I think is going to get you a lot further in the long run. It's not so much the physical as the mental aspect, so that they enjoy being ridden and seeing what you're going to do each day, so they can't just predict what's going to happen and get bored.
Hi, I'm Jessica Hammond and I'm here today with Beyond the Wire. Beyond the Wire is Maryland Racing's Thoroughbred Aftercare program. We are a joint venture between the Maryland Jockey Club, the Maryland Thoroughbred Horsemen's Association, and the Maryland Horse Breeders Association. We also get per start contributions from Maryland jockeys and owners. And we retire roughly 125 horses a year.
My name is Charles Muldoon. I'm the Executive Director of the United States Polo Association's Umpire LLC. Prior to that, I was a professional polo player, traveling the world for about 20 years at the highest levels. I have not only played at that level, but trained horses from taking them off the track all the way up to that level. Hundreds of horses off the track.
Hi, my name is Neil Agate. I'm honored to serve currently as the president of the Maryland Horse Council. I'm a longtime polo player. I started watching polo in the 80s down on the mall in DC, and one day was down there and someone said, "Do you want to ride a horse?" And I've been hooked ever since. Fast forward a few years ago, till about 10 years ago, when I got involved with the Maryland Horse Council, which I'm currently president of. But at that point, Stuart Pittman was president, and in addition to getting me involved with the Horse Council, he also got me involved with the Retired Racehorse Project. And I helped out with some of the first makeovers at the Horse World Expos and at Pimlico. And then pretty much settled into helping promote the polo side of Retired Racehorse Project with the polo community. So we have Nikki Osterman here from Foxy G, who's the president of Foxy G, who's going to tell us a little bit about Foxy G.
Hi, good to meet you. Good to see you today. So the Foxy G Foundation began in 2012. And it is actually named after a very charismatic racehorse that Laurie and Jerry brought here to Summer Wind, which is where we are based. We actually technically have 3 parts to our program. We do have a rehabilitation, then we have adoption, and then sanctuary. Right. We really do love that about our program, is that, you know, there is an option for each and every horse. So it's not end of the line for anybody that would come to us or that we would then have to find another option for. Once they're here, we can fit them in one of those programs.
What gets you out to a farm like this? What do you have to know about a horse before you come out and take a look at it?
Well, a lot of times somebody will call me and they'll say, you know, I have a horse, a thoroughbred that's, you know, just come off the track. And so we talk about the breeding, which is very important to us in the polo world. And then we just describe the horse. You know, the first thing I want to know is how sensible they are, really. I mean, if it's a crazy kind of wild horse, I don't want to touch it. Because we want, you know, the main thing is for us is we want mindset, agility, and we want, you know, athleticism, and then we want speed. That's where we want to go when we start out.
Probably in that order too.
Totally in that order. I don't want to mess with something because if you know, in polo, it is already, you know, the thing is we're taking kind of every element in all the equine world and putting it all into one. So they have to have a pretty good mind to do it all.
This horse came to Foxy G through the Beyond the Wire program, raced in Maryland. And so what can you, I mean, looking at this horse, temperament seems pretty good, but I don't know if you can tell from just standing around, or what are your thoughts on this horse?
Well, I mean, she just came off the track, so
and that's
the big thing, and so you did. But let me tell you, this is a very, very nice-minded horse. I mean, there's no question. I was out there grazing her and hanging out with her. Sweet mare. Everything time you touch her, she listens to you, and so a good start so far on this mare.
Valley Luna's only raced 6 times. She hit the board 2 of the 6 times, but in not too substantial of races. And after she was first and second, her performance started going down as she had to race at higher levels. So within those 6 races, her owner decided that it was time to retire her and find her a new job. And we love it when our owners and trainers do that because they're giving her a shot at doing anything she wants to do or someone adopts her to do for her second career because she's in such good condition.
Here's Valley Luna, Magical Luna, Valley Luna, Magical Luna. Which Luna do you like? Magical Luna, Valley Luna.
I want to just point out 2 things that I learned very quickly starting to work with the Retired Racehorse Project is racehorse people love to know that polo people like the short mares, because evidently in everything else short mares are very hard to find homes for. So that's how I start my conversations with most people, and probably close to the limit of my knowledge on the conformation subject. So Charlie, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what you look for in conformation? And
well, so starting with the horse's head, I'll go from here to there, and looking at that, I always look at what if a horse has a kind eye, and this mare does. She has a little, you know, ears. She's always paying attention with her ears. She's you know, doing all the right things, but she's a very beautiful little head here, and she has a nice little mouth, big nostrils to be able to breathe. And as we play the higher level, we need them to have a lot of oxygen coming into their hearts because they're galloping around on a polo field for 7 minutes. Then you move down, you see her neck. She has a nice, very nice neck here, and we're looking for a horse that can use their neck when they're playing. Again, we do a lot of stuff like a basic dressage in polo because they're, you know, you have to collect them, you got to get them to stop. So they have to have the good neck, a good shoulder here, a nice shoulder coming to here, and nice short back. It's from here to here. See, there's nice short back on her, and she has a leg at every corner. Nice pasterns. Very clean, as you said before. So that's what I'm kind of looking for, just in general, a quick look at this mare. And she's a very nice type for polo.
Okay, so we're going to see a little bit of this horse's movement, and Charlie, tell us what he's looking at.
So when I'm looking at a horse just walking, I'm watching their feet, and I'm watching that she oversteps her front foot by a good 6 inches, and which is amazing. That means it's a forward-moving horse. And it means that she's very free in her hind end. That's what we need. And as you watch her turn, she's using her hind end. She just naturally on a walk, she's putting that out there and rotating her right. Like when she's turning to the right, she's rotating her right hind leg to sort of inward as you see her. And as she's see how that goes, like a little bit 3 or 4 inches inwards. That's just natural. So when you get a horse that will naturally do that, and is as forward as this mare, you'll have somebody, and we'll see when we get on, but she should be able to put her hind end underneath her a little, you know, what we need her to do in polo. So what we're going to do first is we're going to throw on her bridle, and this is just a typical little exercise bridle that we use in polo for the young horses, just to see what their mouth is about, how soft their mouth is. It's just a little snaffle that we put in there, a little copper snaffle, and yeah, girly. And we'll just throw this on her, and so when I get on her, I can just immediately see what she is, and how her mouth, because the biggest part for us is we want them fast, we want them agile, but we want them to stop. So we got to see how soft her mouth is. So let me just throw this on real quick. And what we do in the beginning is we're just trying to get her used to the movements, sort of doing low-level dressage with her, and getting her to where she is moving off the leg, and getting to be able to get on her hind end, get collected, do all of that stuff. And that's the beginning of her training. You know, we go in the very, very beginning, we just see what she is, we give her time off once we get off the track, and then we start that process. And on a polo saddle, compared to other saddles, we use a breastplate. And we have a martingale on her. That's just for my protection a little bit in the beginning. So her head doesn't pop up and hit me. I don't know her, but put the pad up here on her. Once we feel she's ready and she's the mindset, we talked about the mind before. Some horses day one, we'll show them the mallet just to see what the reaction is. Other horses take a few days, but they will within the first week see a polo mallet, just so we can get them used to it and used to the motion around their head and around their body. So we do that, and then from there, we will keep working them, work with the mallet, take him out, hit the ball. We're just there. Well, no, actually, I do need another girth. Now that we've gotten everything tight and where we want it on her, as I get on and I start walking around, I will then start looking at what she is, how she feels, how she feels underneath me, how balanced, and how quiet she is. Because the one thing I know, which gives me a lot of confidence, is that she raced a few weeks ago. So knowing that how well the horses are broke, most of them, at the racetrack, and that she got a good report and came from a good farm and a good trainer, that we know that she most likely has had the best breaking, and so that she is quiet enough to get on. Yes, girl. She's definitely feeling good. You're right. So I'll just walk her around, let her see everything. As you can see, I'm using my hands just to see what her mouth is like. As you see, she's bending a little bit. And she's very light. She's actually really light. So I'll actually ask her to stop, look, and then I'll see if she'll back up. But she's even light, but I'm not trying to ask too much of her right now. If they've raced like her and won, that's actually a great thing. And if they've won and they're acting like this, that means that they're, that controlled fire is what we're looking for in a polo pony. Where she's, as you can see, the more we're walking around here, the more I'm liking this mare, because she's just mentally there. She's just looking to do it right, and she's being just, doing that. So this mare, I would have no problem saying that she has a competitive edge on other horses that maybe we bred and broke at the farm. We have to teach them. The good thing is I won't have to teach this mare how to run. She'll already know how to run coming off the track. After this small evaluation, we would just basically take her and start riding her out in the field, letting her gallop around, letting her freely gallop, not working too much on her mouth, until we feel that she's used to doing the sort of bigger motions. It's very much like lower level dressage, training level dressage, a lot of circles, going across, checking down, trotting, going into the next lead, and doing that until we feel that they're totally balanced for that. We continue that process of practicing them, turning them out, practicing them, turning them out, practicing them, turning them out for a whole year. And then we know they have their basics down. Then they're ready to go on to club chuckers, club tournaments the next year. And then we put a little more pressure on them to do all the stuff we've been teaching them in games. And in the while between games, we're schooling them, stopping them, turning them, getting to be more light on their haunches and in their mouth, and figuring out which bridle they'll actually like, because we have multiple bridle types in polo. And that's why, and that's where we go from there. That's where we really start seeing what level the horse we feel will make. But everything she's done so far has been very positive, and I feel she would have a great future in the polo world.
Thanks to our teams in Maryland, Colorado, and Kentucky for participating in this year's virtual Makeover Masterclass. For more information on retraining thoroughbreds for equestrian sports, you can go to retiredracehorseproject.org. There you can find information and educational content focused on horse care, evaluating prospects, training, nutrition, soundness, and more.
The Retired Racehorse Project's 2020 Virtual Makeover Masterclass is brought to you by the Thoroughbred Education and Research Foundation, Retired Racehorses of Arapahoe Park, and the United States Polo Association.